Welcome back to Nature's Corner. My name is Erin Shaw. I'm a naturalist with Ohio Department of Natural Resources. On today's show, we have a special guest named Terry Staley, and he's going to be talking to us about a special trail project that he's been working on. So Terry, thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you for all the work that you've done. You're nearly, 6,000 hours volunteer on the trails.
Since 2014, yes.
That's incredible. That is a record breaker for sure. Thank you. Blood, sweat, and tears out here, aren't you?
Yes, I have been today too.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about your background first, and then we'll get on to the project you're working on.
All right, I'm retired Air Force. Family moved out here to Ohio because I worked at Wright Pat for civil service. I retired from Wright Pat and started spending too much time at home, and my wife said, get out of the house, go do something. So I started volunteering.
All right, so you've been through the OCVM program?
I went through in 2014.
2014, wow. Glad to have you here, Terry. Thank you. And so what got you started into trail work?
Used to help with the trail team, and we just kept the trails cleared about 2 feet, 3 feet. And I used to help with the water programs and everything. And the end of June of 2016, Waynesville had a tornado, went through from Waynesville to Wilmington, closed all our trails. So I spent 6 months just cutting 3-foot chunks out of all the trees so the hikers can at least get back on the trails and hike. And I could see that it needed more than that we were doing minimum, and it was labor intensive for minimum.
Yeah, well, the trails here in the park have really been noticed, so thank you again. And so the trails were closed. They said they were closed indefinitely in some spots, and
right.
With your help, we've reopened a lot of spots, and now you're working on a whole new project here, and that's what we're going to focus on today.
Okay, we're at 50 Springs.
Okay, so where in the park is 50 Springs?
50 Springs is just on the east side of the Route 73 bridge, just past the marina.
Okay, so you can see in the background the bridge there, and the marina, you can kind of see it, yeah?
See the bottom, the outside, the boats are all out now, so normally you can see boats. This is a no-wake area, so from this overlook you could see the boats and watercraft because they go by a lot slower.
Okay. This is a nice scenic area. So again, we're in the 50 Springs recreation areas, cross-country skiing, mountain bikes are allowed through here, hiking. There's a couple group camps for scouts. So this is like a peninsula, I guess, off of the lake.
Correct. It's 3.4 mile loop if people want to hike the whole loop, and doesn't take them a super long time. The west side is where we're at now. I've cleared. I'm working at widening the east side to make it easier for the hikers and the bikers.
Okay. Yeah, so if you're practicing for a 5K, this is a perfect loop. And again, mountain bike, cross-country skiing. This is a multi-purpose except for motorized vehicles.
Correct.
And you have had a fantastic idea, which is taking foot. So tell us about your trail project.
Okay, my trail project was, as I cleared this east side last year, for this mile, it took me 3 months. And while I was out here on the same trail, day after day after day, I got to looking at it and thought, this is a perfect spot. It's level, east to west, and rolling hills for a paved handicap accessible trail. And I wrote up a proposal. I invited you and Brent Fox, the park manager, to walk it with me, get your input that you agreed with it before it went to ODNR, because they need to modify 2 different restrooms to be handicap accessible. And it wasn't any sense us trying to raise money to pave this if they weren't on board. And Ms. Mertz, the ODNR director, did think it was a good project, and okayed funds to be used to modify the bathrooms.
Yeah, handicap accessible spots are really important, and this is such a nice stretch with the scenic overlook. So it would be almost a mile long stretch.
It's 0.9 of a mile. There's a 0.1, there's a pavilion, there's 0.6, another pavilion, and 0.2, and the overlook is right between the two pavilions.
Okay.
So if we get this project completed and somebody just wanted to go to the overlook, they could just go on 0.3 of a mile to it and then go back. My proposal also included making this paved trail 10 feet wide with the orange centerline striping to hold wheelchair races in the future. Children in electric wheelchairs or hand, military, veterans, with hand bikes, electric, whatever we can come up with, and hold wheelchair races out here.
That's great. That's what we're missing on this trail, right? Is the electric part of it. And
correct.
Such a neat stretch for people. That's a pretty long way.
Right, if they wanted to do the whole 0.9
Yeah.
with rest areas that, like I said, a pavilion rest area here, which will have some benches and wheelchair parking. Another pavilion with picnic tables. They'll have handicap picnic tables and available and everything. So if people wanted to get out and look at it, it is accessible. It's fairly dry. It doesn't get super muddy. A wheelchair can still get out here if they don't mind getting in the rough and have somebody with them and everything.
Yeah.
It's still accessible because it's fairly level.
Now, the idea of disabled races, wheelchair races, do you know of any other place that does that?
I'm not sure. I've checked with some of the veterans organizations because I belong to VFW and American Legion. They haven't gotten back. I know disabled vets do have raced before.
Yeah.
When I was in the military, I flew medivacs and I in and out of combat zones, so brought a lot of wounded vets back.
Yeah, so maybe that's not happening because they don't have a space, they don't have a place to go.
And this is long, it's got a couple uphills.
Yeah.
So the ones that want the upper body strength and can prove it, men and women, there's some women that put me to shame, and use it, then those two hills will give them a challenge. The rest of it, for electric ones and everything, would not be a problem.
So there's a lot of other organized races and stuff that come through here, and I know that you know a lot of the people because you're out on the trails a lot.
Yeah, we just had a week and a half ago a 50K 50 miler. 2 weeks before that there was the
50-mile run. Can you imagine?
And
running 50 miles?
A week before that was a night race, and they've done that 2 years in a row out here because I keep the trails clear. They don't have to worry about their heads. They watch their feet.
Yeah.
And
so is it different organizations that?
The Ohio River Runners is the one that does the night race. They do the Frosty 14 normally in February, and then the Doggone Dog race that they just had, a 50K 50 miler.
That's them too.
And they have 13-hour limit, and they do it 7, 8, 9 hours.
That's incredible.
It is, and I give them all credit to it.
Wow. So we're here at 50 Springs, and you've told us where we are in the park, and you've told us why this is a great idea, and why it's needed.
Because there's only, I think all of the Ohio state parks, there's only a couple that have handicapped trails.
Yeah.
One of them, and I may mispronounce it, the Maui, I think it's a boardwalk.
Maumee Bay, yeah.
That it's out over the marsh. Well, it's just barely wide enough for one wheelchair, not passing wheelchairs.
Okay.
A lot of square corners.
Yep.
This would be paved with radius corners coming in here to the overlook and out. But what would set Cedar Creek State Park apart from the other 74, 75 is wheelchair races.
Yeah.
I'm not sure there's any state parks in the 50 states that hold races. And for 0.9 of a mile?
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, it's a great idea. So through my years in the park, one of the most incredible experiences that I was able to be in was a disabled kayak training. So adaptive paddling is what it was called. So it's people who have different disabilities for whatever, and we learned how to adapt the kayak or the canoe, but it was mostly kayaks, so that these people were able to get out and enjoy the water and kayaking.
Right.
That were not able to do so prior.
And most of them have a good upper body strength.
For sure.
So they can paddle. I know Warren County Veterans Organization comes out here once a year, uses the visitor center, and they get boaters to take the people that can't get on boats themselves and take them out fishing or see the lake or
take a warrior fishing. That's coming up in the fall.
Yeah, and they do that every year.
Yep. So it's a great opportunity, something that our society could use, something we need. So thank you. And tell us, how is this going to be possible? It's going to be very expensive. Do you have any estimates? It's
going to be expensive. Looking at $160,000, $170,000. That's getting this all paved, the overlook, steel railing to make sure wheelchairs don't go off the ledge here, and the picnic tables, handicap accessible, and the seating and stuff for their friends, and bumper stops and everything. We're looking at trying to write for grants for this, and also I have a GoFundMe site that I've collected some money. I'm trying to collect money that way in case grants don't come through to get this paid for.
Okay, so how do we find the GoFundMe site?
The GoFundMe site is listed as Paved Handicapped Trail, Caesar Creek State Park, Waynesville, OH.
Okay, all right, I'll look for that. And the number, the dollar amount that you gave, does that include the restrooms or no?
No, that does not. The 160, 70,000, because if we don't get this in, oil goes up, asphalt goes up. So that's why I can't nail down 160, 170. As it progresses, and the product's going to go up, and labor may. Brant Fox, the park manager, is going to have to use his own capital funds to remark both parking lots, redo the restrooms to make them handicap accessible, and put in sidewalks from the restrooms up to the pavilions where we'll have the pavement for the trail.
Yeah, okay, makes sense.
Yeah,
and
that way the state's paying part of this.
Yeah.
Because it ends up state property anyway.
Sure. All right, so when is this happening?
Well, right now, because we've got the bids in, Rick's looking at trying to get that. As soon as we collect the money, we can go. So getting some final estimates on the railing, but if we hit that, we could start this fall on it and have it in for the autumn leaf changes. That's one thing, getting people out in wheelchairs can come out here and see the autumn leaf changes and the color changes. And there's a lot of deer on this trail because they go between the lake and the woods over here. Yeah. So if you're out early in the morning and late in the evening, you'll see 3, 4, 5 deer on the trail all the time.
Exactly. And you see the boats and the airplanes and the birds. I heard a woodpecker just now.
Right.
Do you know where we have one trail, I believe it's not very long, in the park right now that's handicap accessible over by Flat Fork?
The boardwalk, I think, is, and it's partially paved, but they have an overlook there at Flat Fork, which is there on the, as you cross the dam on the left.
Yeah.
The visitor center also has an overlook that's
great.
A deck.
Okay.
That you can overlook the lake from there also.
So I do get a lot of questions actually, you know, where can we go? We have a person that's disabled, and where can we go in the park?
Right.
So it's really close to the dam. It's called Flat Fork. You can park in the upper parking lot and go out, but it's not very far. It's a nice overlook and you come
Right.
back. But this would open a whole new world here.
Right, because they could do at their leisure, come out all day. They could cook out at the pavilion
Yeah.
and spend the whole day and bring the kids out if one of the kids that was in a wheelchair and may not get to come camping.
Yeah.
You know, then like you said, they can be reserved and camping's available.
Yep.
So
the group camps are on either side.
right.
Yeah, that's great.
And they would be able to camp out with their child.
Yeah, that's incredible. So I know that you have a lot of trail stories, and before we wrap this up, this is such a neat idea. Are there any like trail experiences or stories that you want to share with us?
I guess one I could is where Sugar Maple Loop is over by the Day Lodge. You use because it's got pawpaws, and you normally in the fall do pawpaw hikes down in there and everything. And the one trail got so narrow, everybody quit using it because you couldn't get up it when it was muddy. So I ended up spending 5 days cutting a hillside back and getting the clay out of the way to build steps in there so people can use it now. And I think last year when you did a year ago, in 2018, you did your pawpaw hike, they were in and you were able to come back down, and now it's 3.5, 4 feet wide.
So the pawpaws are getting ready to be ready, and that is a great place. We get that question too, you know, where can we find pawpaws in the park? And that is one of my favorite loops. It's about a 1 mile loop from the Day Lodge, which is close to the visitor center.
Correct.
And if you park at the Day Lodge and do that loop, it's so beautiful with the ferns and the creek.
When I run my trimmer, I don't cut up the ferns. I leave the ferns.
You manicure around the ferns.
I go around them, and the rock wall there kind of looks like somebody planted them because there's 9 or 10 almost in a row. It's like, how could that be out there? And
it's an old growth forest. There's a valley, you can see out to the lake. It's a beautiful spot.
Right. And I kind of, from what I've heard, this trail that we're on, since it has farm fence lines on both sides, that it might have been one of the old stage lines.
Okay.
Because it appears to have been a road. There's a culvert up here and everything, so that would be interesting if this indeed was one of the old stage lines before all this was, thought of and having a lake out here.
Right.
That would be interesting too.
So Terry, thank you so much. We can't say thank you enough. I mean, you have spent a lot of time.
Yeah.
And
I just can't stay home. I'm not a homebody. I have to do something.
Well, it keeps you in great shape, and I don't know, it's a great interaction with the visitors, and this is such a neat idea.
Yeah, I see a lot of hikers, runners. Last year with COVID, a lot of brand new hikers from Cincinnati up here, never been to the park and was enjoying it, and they're saying they're 6 feet away because there's plenty of room out here.
Absolutely.
When the governor said, enjoy our parks, a lot of people did. Problem is, with no wheelchair accessibility, certain groups that have disabilities couldn't enjoy our parks as well as others.
Yeah, that makes
And that's
sense.
what this project is going to help with once we can get it done. And we will get it done. One way or the other, we will get it done.
That's right, exactly.
Right. I don't quit.
Has there been some experience, or what drives you to this project?
Well, as you can tell from our discussions, I'm pretty passionate about getting this done for the handicapped. And most of it's from my 20 years in the Air Force and flying different medevacs during different places that went, flew 141s, and bringing wounded, dead military women and men, and I could see here that this would be a good place for competitiveness, and the services have that. Between the services, within the services, our flying squadrons, you could have those, and you're competitive within the individual squadrons at one base, or base to base, or service to service. And if we can set that competitiveness up, and each service and the individuals, you know, give it what everything they've got, and then take a trophy home for Air Force. Yeah.
So we're pretty close to right pat. We're like, what, 35, 40 minutes?
Yeah, about 35 minutes, because I live in Fairborn, so it's a 35-minute trip and everything. And getting the kids out here, even if they did the race for the 1/10 of a mile, which is perfectly flat, and they all get prizes, regardless of time and stuff, that probably make those kids' day.
For sure.
And that's pretty much why, when I thought of this, I was passionate about going through the steps to try to get it done, and then figure, how do I get this done?
Yeah, well, it's a huge group of people that are not readily able to get out because they don't have a place.
Correct.
And I think in this last year has been a real eye-opener on how important the trails are. Because like you were saying, 2020, of course, everything was closed, and we had a 90% increase in attendance, because the park is a place for health, it's a place for mental health, it's a place to get out, it's open, and the trails, so even the work that you've done around the perimeter trail, keeping them clear and open, is phenomenal, and is becoming even more important and recognized. So I think that this idea has great potential, and
I think it'd be a great plus for the park and for Ohio. I mean, Ohio can go to the other states and say, hey, we've got this 0.9 of a mile trail, we're holding wheelchair races, what do you got?
Yeah, so exactly. Well, Terry, thank you again.
Thank you for having me, Erin.
Yeah. So that's it for today's show. If you have any questions, you can check us out online at ohiostateparks.gov, or you can see us in the Nature Center, and we'll see you on the trails.
Thank you.